do your giving while you're living, then you're knowing where it's going.
Exactly.
And there is a joy in giving. There really is. And I think we miss out on it. And so as we think about this subject, I don't know why, but there's a discomfort among Christians when you address the topic of money and giving. I think everyone sort of clutches their wallet, or you fasten your purse, or they're going to receive an offering now. And why are we so reluctant in this area? Why is there discomfort? I mean, you can talk about heaven, awesome. You can talk about the promises of God, fantastic. You can talk about the imminent return of Jesus, I love it. You talk about money, and the Bible talks about it so much, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to hear about this. Why is that? I don't get it.
Well, I think we have turned to money to fulfill our deepest needs, and it doesn't do that. Now, it's a blessing of God, and we do need money to live on and provide food for our families and all of that. So it's not a bad thing in and of itself, but when we make it our God, the rich fool, you think about this in Luke 12. Here's this man who he's successful. And so what does he do? He builds bigger barns just to store up all these things for himself. And then God says, you fool, this night your life is required of you. And you have been rich toward yourself, but you have not been rich toward God, and judgment falls upon him. But this reminds me of 1 Timothy chapter 6, which if you turn in your Bibles to 1 Timothy 6, that would
let's turn there. 1 Timothy 6.
That would be great. And this passage has a lot of great stuff in it. But in verses 9 and 10 of 1 Timothy 6, you have the bad news about wealth. And here it is. But those who desire to be rich, and at first you go, those who desire to be rich, well, wait a minute. Everybody desires to be rich, right? I mean, whether you're a poor person or whether you're already a rich person, you just want to get richer. It's kind of this natural human thing. Well, here's what falls upon those who desire to be rich. Those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare. I'm counting on my fingers here, into many senseless, harmful desires that plunge people. And that word for plunge is a word that's often translated drown. The drown people in ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. Not money itself, but the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils, and it is through this craving that some have wandered from the faith, and they have pierced themselves with many griefs. We're on to a third hand now. There's about 14 negative statements about desiring to be rich, and you go, wow, we're all in trouble. We're all in trouble. And you could think it's just like James 5, where God can be pretty hard on rich people. He says, woe to you who are rich, and weep and howl for the miseries that are going to come upon you. You go, wow, that is pretty depressing. But then skip forward just about 7 verses in 1 Timothy 6 to verse 17. As for the rich in this present age, and by the way, he's talking to all of us. Go to globalrichlist.com, put in your annual income, and find out how rich you are. I just put in the other day $25,000, which is considered U.S. poverty level for a family of 4, for an income of $25,000. And guess where it puts you in terms of world wealth? It puts you in the top 2% of the wealthy people of the world. Yeah, it's pretty shocking. You put yours in there and you are going to be way more likely in the 99th percentile, which happens to be the highest percentile, and you're sharing it with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, right? It's just that they're in the 99.99, and you're maybe in the 99.3 or whatever you might be, but you'll be shocked at where you come out. So this is to all of us. As for the rich in this present age, charge them not, command them not to be prideful, or not to be haughty, one translation says, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches. Where do you put your hope? Hope is part of what we're talking about today. You put your hope in God, who is unchanging. You don't put your hope in riches which are here today and gone tomorrow. Either you will be taken away from your riches, or your riches will be taken away from you. One way or the other, you do not have an eternal relationship with your present wealth. But Jesus said you can take it and store it up for yourselves in heaven. And that's where Paul is going to go. He says, put your hope in God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy, which is so kind of God to say that. Because right when you think, wow, wealth is terrible and you should never even enjoy it. And he's given it to us for us to enjoy, but he's given it to us for much larger reasons as well. What are we to do with what God has entrusted to us? Here's what the rich are to do. The rich are, verse 18, to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and eager or ready to share. One translation says willing to share, but I don't like that. It's more than willing. It's eager, it's ready, it's just jump in there. I want to jump in and help people. Those are 4 different expressions that are all about giving, and this is God's call and command to the rich, and it's the only solution to the problem of wealth, because that verses 9 and 10 warn us about. And then he says in verse 19, when you do this giving, thus storing up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, for the future that's after death. Well, that's just like Jesus said, don't store up for yourself treasures on earth, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven in Matthew 6. But then he doesn't end there. It's not just that our eternal future will be better and we'll enjoy the benefits of it. And it's not just that we'll be helping people and wonderful that we're loving our neighbor as ourselves and doing that great thing. But then he says, so that they, who? The rich who give. That's the key. The givers, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Not the false life. Not the money's going to make you happy. It doesn't buy happiness. And even secular people, when they're honest, acknowledge that. But it's present tense. So we got our future that's going to be better in reward in heaven for all eternity. We've got the present and the future of other people who are the recipients of our gifts. And that's a wonderful thing. But it's so that we in the present may take hold now of the life that is truly life. It's not just that giving people will one day be happier when we're with Jesus. It's that giving people will be happier today because we are honoring Jesus and we are obeying Jesus and we are doing what we were made to do to become like Jesus himself in terms of being givers.
That's